Session, we were introduced to HTML. So I want to give an overview of what we learned during our last session. Then, if you have any challenge, we address that. Then we continue with today's session. Alright, so during our last session, we were introduced to HTML, where we got to know that HTML is a structure for web pages, where it provides a skeleton of what we are building, and you would have to add some flesh, some stars to it before you can make it nice. And we also learned that it uses tags and attributes to describe the structure, and you can use it, and it's platform independent, means that it can run on all platforms. All right, then we went to look at the structure of an HTML, where we got to understand that in declaring an HTML document, or you need to declare the doc type, which determines or which specify the version of the HTML that you are using, and the doc type is the the fifth version of HTML. And we also got to know the HTML tag, which is the root element, and it must be in your file. Without it, then you are not writing any HTML code. So the HTML tag should also come, and it contains all the other elements. So whether it's the head, the body, the paragraph tag, the heading tags, and everything are being contained in the HTML element. Then we have the head tag, where it contains some behind scenes elements like metadata, description of your web page, the title of your web page, and the title is what appears on the bar when you open the website in the browser. Then we also got to know the body tag, which contains the visible part of the web page. So everything that you want to see in the page should be in the body tag. And we also went through some tags, and we also learned how to create an HTML file. Then we learned an element and attribute. So we said element contains starter, content, and end tag. And so just as you can see, then the attribute in there provides additional information about an element. So some of the attributes can be ID, class. If it is an image, you can have the SRC for the source of the image. You can have the ALT, that alternative, which can be a description or a name for the image that you picked. You can also have weight, so to specify the weight of the image, and others. All right, so these are some HTML tags that we went through uh, during our last session. Then we went through some formatting tags, where you can, without using style sheet or CSS, you can start the text. So maybe you can bolden it, italize it, and others. All right, then how to comment in HTML. Then we went through HTML list, where we went through the ordered list, and description list. All right, so this is where we got to. So please, if you have any question or clarification or something, let us know so that we can go through together. Then we continue with what we have today. So please, do anyone need a clarification or have a question? of or face a challenge that we cannot address it here?
Yeah, yes. Me.
Okay, so
Yeah, I have a question with the description tag.
okay,
I'm not actually clear with that. How different is that from the body tag?
or like you're talking about the descriptive list, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so with that, you could see that we have when you use a description list, you have the term name, that is the name, and maybe some kind of description. So I think we use an example where we use oranges, list of oranges, and we added some quantities. And so maybe if you have an item and it has maybe another description, that is when you can use the description list. But if it's just one item or without extra information, that one you can just use any of the list, unordered list or the ordered list. So with the description, you have another um item to define. So means that always you should get two items, maybe the name and description or anything like that. So that is the difference.
Okay, thank
All right,
you.
you're welcome. Please, any other? You can use a hand too so that I'll and you speak. Please, any other? Okay, then I think nobody has a question or some clarification.
Have my hand
Okay, please, misspell.
raised, but you haven't called me.
Oh, sorry for that.
I was going through um the vid- the videos, and then I I got stuck at where the image we're supposed to insert the image on the website, but then uh, I think I got the image side, but after that the rest of the things that come after it, I'm not clear with it.
Please, can you come again? I didn't get your question well.
The on the website development, I have followed all the steps to create the websites up to where the image you insert the image onto the website. And then
Okay.
after that, I didn't really get how you were able to skip from 24 to 27.
You mean the slides? Oh, coming in. Oh. Okay, so I still don't get like the challenge you are facing. But did the image appear on the page?
Yeah, I have the image on the
Oh, okay.
page.
So which challenge were you facing with it?
Yeah, so after that side, that was where I was having a problem because the audio was faster than the video.
Oh, okay. So okay, let me go over the image um, tag again. So Okay, so let me go over the image, then we continue from where we ended. So I asked you to create a folder in the directory that you are building the application. So I created the image folder, then added one image. So with the image, we are going to use the image tag img. So you have your img, then with the img you get the source, so where the image is located. So you have to get that directory in there, or you can just copy the link of the image on the website or any on the web, then on the internet, then you just place the image URL there, so it will display the image for you. So in this case, I want to
Yeah, I've gotten that side, but then what
like
comes
what we
after
learned
it?
after the image.
Yeah, after the image, I've gotten everything up to the image
Okay,
side.
I get you
Then
now.
what after setting the image, what you are supposed to do next?
So after setting the image, you can you can add a weight to it to maybe change the size for you. Sometimes the image may cover the whole page, but when you use the weight, you can style it to the desired width that you want, or you can even give it a height. So that is what. But we are going to do more of that. So you just uh, just calm down now. So we'll go through all of them again as we practice. All right. So we also went through the list. So we went through the list as well. So we'll go through everything again. Then yeah, sure. All right. So
Okay.
there were two things that we needed to learn in the HTML basics. So that is forms and tables. So we will go through that. Then we start with some basics in CSS. All right. So we all have we all use forms in, especially manually. You print forms, people fill them. So in the same way, we can also create some forms uh, on the internet so that people can fill them as well. If you want to make a search request, you type your content in the search bar or something, then you just submit, then you get what you want. So that search bar there is an example of what a form, so which you can input something, or you can click a button, then it brings you what you want. So forms are very, very important. So you can use it to collect user input, your name, your password, your email, and others. And so we have, in using the forms, we have what we call the form element or the tag, which is just the form. It serves as a container. It serves as a container, and it contains input elements and others. So we have the input element, which is one of the tags. uh And the input, it has different types. So it can be, if you want to take only a text value, you just specify the type as for text. If it is an email you want the person to enter, in order to validate that the person enters an email, you have to make the type as what, an email. Other than that, you get something different. So the type attribute in a form tag or element is very, very important. So if it's a password you are taking, you have to specify the type. So that it to be a password, and it to behave as what you are entering a password. Then if it is a radio, if you have a list of items and you want the person to select one, so you can use the radio type in the input element. If it's a checkbox, like the person can select more than one or more, you can use the word checkbox. Then you can also make input a button or a submit, so that when as soon as you click on the, you specify the where the form should go, then you just use a submit. You can specify the type as well, submit. Then as soon as you click it, it sends. You also have the reset. That one, when you change the type to reset, anything that when you click on that button, it will clear everything in the form. So these are some type attribute that you can include in what the input. Then you also have the label, and the label defines, like maybe for a name, just like here. You can see that there is a label here for name, first name, last name, and the street name. You can use the label for each of the inputs. So take note of that. All right. So let's practice our. So just open your editor. We want to practice the input. So I'm clearing everything here. Then we practice the input. All right. Okay. So forms. So I have forms here. Okay. So when you want to create a form, so you have the container as form. So we have a container as for where it contains all the inputs or other elements you want to include in the form. And there is an action attribute here. So there's an action attribute here. So when you, so maybe you want the data to be sent to your email or anything. So you just specify where the form should be submitted. So that one needs to be in what, in the action. So let's continue for others. So we want to take the person's, maybe person's details. So we can have the name. So you can use the label tag to take the name. So let's look at how the label works. So maybe we have name. So we have name. And inside the label, inside the opening tag of the label, we have the for. So for here specify the input or what you want to label. And let's take, we have the input as this, and the input will take a text. This is a name, so it will take a text value. So it will take a text value. And we want this label for this input. So in order to specify that this label is for this input, sometimes someone can click on, is finding it difficult to click the input. So maybe he or she can just click the label, then it works. So the for here takes the ID. So you have an attribute called ID. So let's give it a name. So this is a name. So this is an ID and it has a value of name. So when you are specifying the the value for the for attribute in the label, you should have the same value to which you take the name. And so this is how it works. So we have the label for name. So you can see it has the same ID here. So if you change the ID, you won't get the effect that you want. If you change the value for them, you won't get what you want. So it should be the same value. It should be the same value. You can also have maybe label as maybe for email. So the label for email. So you can just type the person. So maybe email. Then it will take the inputs of what, the inputs. So the type here is what, email. So this will take an email. And since the reason why it is displaying like this because you have not styled it. So maybe you want to use the the HTML to style it. Maybe be in a block form rather than be in a horizontal form. You can just add a break to the break tag here, and so to break it for you. So, but it's very close. So maybe you can try two of them and to leave the space that you want. But when you use the CSS, you can style it the way you want. All right. So this is for email. So these are email. But inside the input, there are many attributes that you can include. So maybe you want to sometimes when you open, maybe if you're logging in an account, sometimes in the input right, you see some text there, or maybe an example, maybe an example of an email that. Uh, so an example like that. So okay, so there's an attribute that you can add like placeholder. So this is what it does. The placeholder attribute will add some text in the box for you. So maybe this is what name, enter name. You can just write maybe enter name, enter full name or something. Alright, so you can see you can add. So means when as soon as you start typing, it will go off. So if it is empty, you see the value of the placeholder like this. Okay, and for the email too, you can also add placeholder. So enter an email. So maybe email. You can just do example at gmail.com. All right. So something like any details you want to take from the user or the client, you can just use the form. So let's try other input types. So let's label as for password. Let's say you want to take a password. So type password. Hello.
Hello, Israel.
Yes, I'm listening.
Israel. Um, please, you're doing a great job, but you're running. Me, I'm crawling.
All right, sorry. I'll be a little slow. Okay, sorry for the running. Okay, so it's just the same idea that we are using. So we are just implementing the form element and the input element. So this is what we are doing. So we are just practicing or implementing what we know. So the label, so just as I said, the label has the four attributes, and the four attributes should have a value of the ID of the input that you are labeling. So if it is for the password, if the label is for the password, yeah, you use the ID of the password. So in this case, you have to give the password an ID as well with a value password. Okay. So here will be a password. Okay, here we didn't add any ID, so let's make sure that there's an ID. The ID attribute as well email. Then you can add a break here to bring it to the next line. Okay. Then here you can get placeholder. Okay, enter password. All right, so let's try this. So with the password, so as soon as you start typing, so it will behave as what a password. So this is how it works. So if the input type is a password, and so you see that the content is hidden. So the content is hidden. You don't see the value of the password unless it is what made visible. So you should take note of that. So we have the type password. We have the placeholder enter password. So anyhow you want to name it, it's up to you. Okay, then let's add a button. Let's add an input which will be a button. So maybe you want to click submit or send to submit the form. So in this case, you can use the input and change the type to what? So you change the type to you want to submit. So you want to submit this. So just make it submit. So submit. So you could see that as soon as you change it to submit, the input changes. Instead of providing a space to type something, it provides a button. So this is the difference. So the submit, since you are not entering anything, it will appear as what a button. So then maybe you can change the name. Maybe okay. So submit. You can just the name as submit. You can give an ID of maybe submit button. So this is it. So when you use a submit, so as soon as you click on the submit, the form is sent. So let's look at something. So that's why the action in the form is here. So maybe if you want the form to be sent to an email or maybe a database or something, so maybe you can use maybe to an email like this. So maybe gmail.com. As soon as the submit is clicked, it will send the form. So John Mensah. So let's try something. So John at okay, let's see something here. And let me enter something. Then let's see submit. And so let's look at something. And so with this, you can see that the email that entered was wrong. It's not an email format. Every email should have the @ sign. So in this case, there was nothing. So you see, when I click on the submit, it printed the one, or it gave a word. Please include an @ in the email address. So John GG is missing. So if the value is not accurate, it will throw an error. So this is how it works. So it means that all mail should have an @ sign. So you can see if I click it now. So there should also be a dot. Your Gmail, let's say gmail.com. Alright. So now you submit. And so it tries to submit the content of the form. Alright, so let's go back. So this is how it works. Another element that you can include in the form is maybe if you want to take a large content. So maybe you have one called a test area. So the test area will provide a bigger box. So like this, where you can type. If the content is large, you can use the test area. So you can use the test area. So that one too is there for you. From the test area, be an ID. So okay, so this is it. So you can just type anything, and it will give you the chance to type in multiple lines. You, you can give it a height to increase the text here. You can give it a height. So you can increase the height later or the width um, later to change the height for you. All right. So let's take note of that. So these are some basic forms that you can include. So let's reset input. So for reset, for example, if the type is reset, if the type is reset, so maybe reset button. So as soon as when you type something and you click on the reset, it will clear everything you've typed. So it will clear everything in the form. Alright, so that's how the reset works. So you can try various types of the it. So you can try various types. So let's see some of the types. Um, okay, so you can see the type. So it can be a button, a checkbox, color, date. So if you want to pick a date, you can use the date, the date time, the date local, email, file. If it is maybe a PDF file or any others, you can make the type file. If you want to hide it, you can just use the hidden. If it's an image you want to pick, so you can just make the type as what image. So look at something. So with the image, so you can pick an image. So when you click on it, it will. So where is the image? Where the image? Okay, now this thing is not refresh. So let's take a file. Okay, so you can choose the file you want. So you can go through them yourself when you have. All right. Let's move on to tables. Table HTML. So tables are also very important. So when you have some information you want to include in a table, you can also go through the table form.
Israel.
Hello, please, I'm listening.
Sorry, please. In the beginning, I said you were going very fast. Now we've gotten into tables. Can I suggest something that everything we do, can we open another template to work on? In that case, I can go back to refresh my mind that, okay, I was able to do this and that and that. But if we keep deleting, to go back to it.
Okay.
A suggestion.
Yeah, sure. You can do that. Okay, so you can create different files to. So if you want it like that, you can do that. So you can just create another ATM file. So maybe for if it's for tables, you can just click the tables, then in HTML. So it's not bad. So you can still do that. I think that one will help you to go back, then refresh on what you learned. So you can do that. So, yeah, you can do that. It's encouraged. So that is encouraged. All right. So maybe HTML tables. So please, if you want to do it like that too, yeah, you can do it like that. But this ones is just like basic knowledge. So yeah, we will implement it more. So that one. So tables.
To you, is basic knowledge. Oh, to you, is basic knowledge. Oh, me, I'm new to this,
Oh
so you need
yeah,
to
I
take
get
your time
you.
for me,
Sure,
okay?
sure. All right. So if you want to, so I'll do it like that. Like I'll do it like that. So any concept will create a new file, then we go through in it so that we can go over them again. All right. Thank you for your suggestion. All right. So let's. So we want to go through the tables. So the tables. So just as I was saying, if you have a list of items with rows and columns, you can use the tables. So you can use the tables. So with the tables, we have the table tag, the TR representing the table row. So a row is this, and we have the table header. So if you want to include a header, so you see the header will give it a kind of styling. So it will bolden the heading for you. We have each cell is a table data. So each cell here is what a table data. So these are the basic things you can use to create a table for yourself. All right, so let's go through that. So you use a table tag as the container. You have the TR, the table row, the TA, the table header, and the TD for table data. And if you have a number of items in a row, all other rows should also have the same number of columns. So if a row has 4 columns, so this one you can see the row has 4 columns. The table has 4 columns and the row has 4 columns. Yeah, so you can't just give the first row 3 items or data. So it should all have equal uh, number of cells. So please let's take note of that. All right. So let's go to editor. Okay. Then to go through the tables. So we have let me make it H1 for tables. Okay. Since you created a new file, you would have to rerun the code. So you have to go back to, you have to open it using the command palette or the live server. So you go to command palette, then you you enter live server or open live server. I think if you have been using it, it will appear just the beginning. So just click on it to open that document on the web for you. And so this is it. Mine has been. So please try and do yours as well. So since you created a new file, you have to open with live server again. Right. Okay, so let's start. So with the tables, so we have the parent or the container, which is the table tag. So you have the table tag. Then we learned that a table has some tags like the T row. So the table row will contains the number of items or the data you want to include. So you have to specify the table row. Then our table data will be inside the table row. So let's see. So the TD. So if it is, let's take orange. So let's make a copy of this. So you can just make a couple of this. Maybe let's create 3 rows, 3 columns in a row. So 3 columns in a row, 3 columns in a row. Then you have, let's take watermelon. Okay, let's make it melon. All right. So our next, so you have maybe a number of rows. So I'm just copying, then I'll change them. So let make this lemon, pineapple, pineapples, and grapes. All right. So you can create as many rows as you want. You can create as many rows as you want. You can create as many rows as you want. All right. So this kind of table items. So later you can style it to give it some kind of uh, borders, so that you can actually see that this is what a table. So we'll do that later as we go through the CSS uh, section. All right. So and then if you want a header, if you want to include a header to include that, so the header, so the same tr, but in this case instead of using td, you use th for headers. This is how we get it. Okay, let me start this one. Okay, so take day 1, day 2, then day 3. Okay, so this is a simple table that we've created. So remember, you need to put it in the table tags, then you include the rows that you want, so that the rows should contain the same number of cells or data. So if this one we are using 3 items, it contains 3 items. So all other rows should contain 3 items. So please take note of that. All other should contain 3 items. So equal items. Equal items. All right. Please, is there any question on this?
Yeah, Israel, hi.
Yes, please, I'm listening.
Yeah, so please, before you type, let's say, under the table row, you see where you've typed the TD lemon and stuff. Do you click on the number, or you just click on the interface like this?
Come again.
I'm saying that before you type in the work page, let's say under the TR,
Okay.
the table row, do you
Mm-hmm.
click on the number, or you click on the workspace to be able to start typing?
Okay, on the workspace, not the number. So maybe,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
So yeah,
okay. All right, thank
as soon
you.
as you type the TR, that you could see the cursor in between the opening and closing tag. So we can just press enter, then you start
Okay,
typing. All right.
okay, all right. Thank you.
All right. So this is all for basics in HTML. So we'll go through CSS so that we can style what we started. So it's just the same thing that we go through and we apply some styling. All right. Okay, so let's go through CSS. So CSS fundamentals. So we go through what CSS is, ways of using CSS. We look at CSS syntax, selectors, comments. Then we go through some styling of text and layout. Then we introduce to box model. Then how to position your layout on the web page and other properties that we will learn. All right. So CSS stand for cascading style sheet. Cascading style sheet, and this is what we use to style and enhance our HTML document. So it will give you the opportunity to change the color of your text, the font size of your text, the font family or font type of your text, and others. It will helps you style your images. Maybe if you want to make the image round, so you can style the image. Want to increase the width, the height, so you can use the CSS to style it. You have buttons, so if you want to change the color of your buttons, the background color or other the text color, so you can also use CSS to modify every element in what in the HTML document. So this is what we are going to do. And it makes web pages presentable. You could see that when with CSS, it wasn't looking attractive. It's just the raw thing. But when you use CSS, you can change everything you want about it. You can even position. Sometimes you want it to be in the center of the page, but without CSS or styling, you can't position it in the center. So CSS will help us to do that. Then we also have, so CSS uses rule set. So you could see in HTML we are using element or tags, but in CSS we are going to use a kind of rule set that to where we will follow to write our CSS. Then you can apply it to HTML element by what using selectors. So one thing about CSS is that if you want to style anything in HTML, you have to use some selectors. So you have to use some selectors, which we'll go through in this session. And CSS is so easy to learn and understand. So that is some knowledge about CSS. All right. So different ways of using CSS. Uh, Different ways of using CSS. So CSS has three ways. So if you want to style your HTML document, um, you can use three ways of what styling it. And the first one, the number one is the inline CSS. So the inline, you use it directly in the HTML element. So let's look at. So you could see this one, the H1 tag. So the H1 tag has a style attribute. So all other elements can have the style attribute. So if you want to style any element in the CSS in the HTML directly, all you have to do is what add a style attribute. So you have to add a style attribute to the element inside the opening tag. And so, for example, for the image like this, we're using some attributes are src, alt, weight, and others. So you can also include a style attribute. A style attribute. Then the style attribute will take the values. So this in case it's styling the h1 or the heading tag to align its content to center. So we have the text align, and the value here is what. So this is a property, and this is what the value. So it's aligning the content. So when you run this in the web, you're going to see that the welcome to coding ladies is being centered, so it's being aligned centrally. So this is it, and you could see how it's being done. So the text align, then colon, then center, then we have the semicolon. So the semicolon here represent like a full stop. So after the semicolon you can add more. So if you want to add more, you end the first one with semicolon like that. So here you can add maybe text color. You can add a text color after the value, then you bring a semicolon. So it's the semicolon is very important. So please don't miss it. The semicolon is very important. All right. Then we also have um internal. We also have the internal CSS. So the internal CSS, we use this tag, the style tag. So there is another tag called the style tag, which you use in the ATM document itself. Though it won't be as this, but you use the style tag to declare whatever styling you want. And mostly you place that in the head. So in the head section. So when we have the head section, let me open this for you and you see. So in this case, if you want to use the inline CSS, for example, for this one, all you need to do is you add a style attribute, then maybe text align. Then I want to do it center. Okay, let me do it so that you see what I'm saying. All right. Okay, so you could see that initially it was, so see, initially it was left aligned, and so that is the default. So that is the default. But when I added the start attribute, I added a value or a property value, the table text has been centrally aligned. So this is how you can style them. So any other tags can have the style attribute. So all of them you can do that. But one thing about using the inline style is that it becomes so difficult. So it means that you have to styling each and every uh, element or tag separately, and you have to write a lot of code for that. So you start the H1 different, you start each of them differently, sir. So you will be wasting time when you use the inline styling. All right. Then you have the internal. So the internal is what I'm saying. You use the start tag, and it should be in the word in the head section. So in the head section, so start tag should be in the head section, so you could see. Then any other thing you want to start will come. So let me start this for you. So I have start this so you see what I'm saying. So I want to add a color. So a color of red. So this kind of declaration is what an internal CSS. Internal CSS. You style it inside the ATM document itself. So take note of that. The only difference with the third one, which is external CSS, is that one you create a different file. That one you create a different file. Then what? You link it. Then you link it inside the HTML document. So and uh, you create that using the .css extension. create that using .css extension. Then you link it to the HTML document using the link tag. So you have the link tag. So if you want to link style sheet, you use the link tag. So you have the link tag. So all this should come. So this is showing that the link to a style sheet. Then the href is the directory to the CSS file. So you create a file, you name it with a dot CSS extension. It's very necessary. Then you link it to this the HTML file that you want to style. And I think this is more encouraged. So when you separately code the CSS, it really helps. So that you each document will have a specific thing it's doing. So you start the CSS separately. All right. So let's go into. So let's create a CSS file. So let's create a CSS file. So we are still using the same directory. So the same directory, the web dev. Then you create a file. So just click on the new file. Then you name it to any name you want. So name it anyhow you want. But I will name mine as style. I'm going to name my style.css. So I've created a CSS file. So I've created a CSS file, style.css. Then all declarations will come inside. And if you want to link the CSS, please, I hope you have created the CSS file. CSS file. Hello. All right. So let's create the CSS file. So click on the new file here. Then it will give you the option to name your file, and just give it a name. Then with the .css file. All right. Okay. So we've created a CSS file which we will be using. Okay. So let's go through the slides. Then before we start using the CSS file. So before you can style your HTML document, you should know how to what? Select the particular element you want to style. And you should also know the structure or the syntax. So how CSS is written. So CSS consists of style rules that are interpreted by the browser and applied to corresponding element. And here we use selectors. So if you want to modify a particular element in your HTML document, you have to use a selector. You have to use a selector. And so this is it. And this is the structure or the syntax. So when you are using the CSS, either the internal or external, so first you need a selector. So you need a selector. Alright, so in this case, the selector was a div. So this div is a div element or a div tag. So you just select it, then use the curly braces. So after the selector, you open curly braces, so both opening and closing. Then the declaration will come inside the curly braces. So if it's a color you want to modify, so you use a property color, then the colon will come, then with the value, so here red, then the semicolon should come. So this is the declaration, so please take note of that. And you can declare multiple properties with their values in div. So anything you want to style about the div should be what inside the word curly braces. So please take note of how it is done. All right, so you go through that. So and the declaration. So the declaration consists of the property and value. So okay. So let's look at CSS selectors. So what are selectors? So selectors target the ATM document you want to modify. You want to modify. Anything you want to modify in the ATM, you have to use selectors. And based on some selectors you can use this or the ID. So you can use the ID of that element to select it or to style it. You can also use the class attribute. You can use the type attribute and many more. But most common use are the ID, the class, the type, and others. So the most commonly used are the ID, class, and the rest. All right. So and we have types of selectors. We have the simple selectors. So the simple selector select element by their element name. So let's look at here. You can see the selector here is a div, and a div is what? A tag name. So that is an element. So if you want to select using the element name, so you just type the name over there. So if it's an image, you want to start using the image element, you just write img like that. If it's a paragraph you want to start, you just write p. So if it is a h1 element you want to style, you just enter h1. So please let's take note of that and look at this. So there's nothing before and after it, so take note. So anything you see with that which has a tag name or an element name, that is what. So that one is using the element selector. All right. Then the next one is an ID. So each element can have an ID. That one is more specific. So IDs are given if you want to style one particular thing or you want to specify something. So you give it an identity. So that one, it should only have that element should have that identity. So you can add multiple the same IDs to all the rest. So please take note of that. So you have the ID, and when you want to select the element using the ID, you start with the symbol. So you start with this symbol, then the name of the ID will follow. So the name of the ID will follow. So this is how you select the element using its ID, which we will do. Then we also have the class. So you can also select the element using the class. So for class, if you have many elements, many elements can have the same class. So if you want to start the same, you want to apply the same styling to many elements, you can use the class. So please take note, you can use the class. And when you are selecting using the class, you start with a dot. You start with a dot. Then the class value or the attribute value will follow. All right. You can also select by attribute. We also have the universal selector. So the universal selector, we use asterisk. So this one will select every element in the ATM document. So it will select every element in the HTML document. So please take note of that. So let's go through this in our editor. Okay. So let me create a different file so that we'll apply CSS. So we apply the CSS to it. So let me use a different name. Okay. So test. Okay, let me make it a test.html. Okay, so I created an HTML file with the name test. So okay, so let me change the title to applying CSS. So applying CSS, and please let's run this in the browser. So you go to the view command palette and then you open with live server. Okay, so I mean that I lost connection. Why is this offline? I don't understand. The thing too is on. Yeah. Why is this happening? Why is this doing this? Is it like I have enough bandwidth? Ah, just a network NASA. I mean, band NASA. What is this misbehavior? Yeah.
Now I'm recently blue job. Now meeting. Up and down.